Hi, I'm Jason Sterling. Welcome to my video on booking a trip on Amtrak, specifically, and booking travel in general. Using my recent trip with my son, the Land Cruise of 2022 from Denver, Colorado to San Francisco, California on the Amtrak Zephyr. Let me state from the start that I will mention several different companies in conjunction with this trip as I use them during this trip. However, nothing I mention has ever been sponsored as far as travel is concerned. Everyone I mentioned here is just someone I happen to use, and my feelings about them, both good and bad, will be expressed, as this is a review of those particular companies as much as it is a tip video to help book travel. With that out of the way, let's talk about booking travel, and let's book a trip on a train. The very first thing I'm going to look into whenever I'm traveling anywhere, anytime, is of course the date and picking a date, which is often, like most Americans, tied to when can I get off work and when is my son in and out of school. Now, a caveat to that, I am not a parent who thinks it is wrong to remove your children from school to travel. In fact, I do think that they will gain more good from traveling with their families, even when it's purely leisure travel, than they will get harm from missing a brief amount of instruction while in school. That said, it is a balancing act between those two things. And when it's actually cheap enough to travel, I prioritize the start of my booking with what I expect to sell out first, what I expect to increase exponentially in price as it sells out, and what I can cancel and or easily change in the future as my plans change during researching the trip. During this voyage, the very first thing I booked was train travel. On Amtrak, the more the rooms or the seats on the train sell out, the more expensive the remaining rooms or seats within that category become. So, say a family bedroom that you might start off paying $1,000 for. Once they've sold down to the last one, that last one might be going for closer to, say, $1,500. Those aren't exact figures. It's an estimate. I actually have some exact figures coming up, but that's kind of an estimate here as we talk about it. So I do book Amtrak first. Now, that can be a bit of a drawback with their changes and cancellation policies. The refund and change policy of sleeper accommodations is okay, in quotes. Coach accommodations is a little less so, especially as far as super saver fares go, which by and large, like a lot of us, I'm going to book what is cheapest. Be sure and read the stipulations, as these can and do change over time, and certain incentives may be running when you book, such as currently, when this video was made, trips booked by July the 22nd, 2022 incur no change fee, though there may still be cancellation fees. The point is, on Amtrak, and I think on some other lines, those sort of rules are in flux. They do change over time. So be sure and read the cancellation policy. If you're worried, you might need to cancel. Jumping into the actual booking process here, Amtrak's site is relatively user-friendly, kinda. But from the start, let me say, you can call Amtrak directly. I've only done it a couple of times, but it was quick and friendly and easy. That said, I like doing it myself. Now, the big drawback with the Amtrak site is that some routes don't run every day. For instance, an example, the Texas Eagle to LA only runs every other day, or like 3 times a week, essentially. But the Heartland Flyer, which is what I would take to get to Fort Worth to transfer to the Texas Eagle to go out to Los Angeles, runs every day. So when I'm booking, I'm going to think, I would like to leave on a Sunday. I'll put in here from Norman to Los Angeles for Sunday and see what is on offer. Now, I do get 2 options, but neither is the cheapest or the most direct route from Norman to Los Angeles. One route, of course, is going to take us from Norman to Oklahoma City, then by bus from Oklahoma City to Newton, Kansas, then by Southwest Chief to, I think, Bakersfield, and then another bus on into LAX. Okay, there's absolutely no reason to go that way, but that's what's available leaving on Sunday. The other option is even worse. In that case, you leave on Sunday, you go to Fort Worth, you go from Fort Worth up to St. Louis, you change in St. Louis, I think, to a smaller train that takes you to Kansas City. Then you change in Kansas City to the Southwest Chief, which then takes you on into Los Angeles. You can see where I'm going with this, but if we change the date by one day and leave on Monday instead of Sunday, we'll go directly from Norman to Fort Worth and then from Fort Worth on to Los Angeles. Much faster. It's also the cheapest option of those three. So the warning here, the lesson here is, if you're expecting to travel on a particular train and you plug in your route and you plug in your date and you don't see that train, in this case, the Texas Eagle, listed on either one of the itineraries that have been selected for you to take, try going on a different day. Another great reason to check out a different day is because pricing based on how full the train is means that the rates fluctuate wildly sometimes between, say, Sunday and Monday. If your schedule is flexible enough, do check a few different days around the date you ideally want to travel and see if what you'll save is worth shifting the vacation a little bit, if you can do that. As well, when it comes to destinations, there is a destinations tab on the Amtrak site. You can pull up every single line that is available, say, in the western half of the United States. You can see where it begins and ends and what stations are available along the way. You don't have to start at a particular station, like the first station on the route or the middle station or the end station. You can get on Amtrak at any stop it makes, no matter how small the town may be. Now, keep in mind, not all towns have a manned station. There may be little to zero services available at the station, and aside from the larger stations, you typically cannot check your luggage when you board. If you board at a larger station like, say, Denver, and you want to check your luggage through to your final destination, you can do it there. In the case of my most recent trip, it was a simple everyday route. I chose Monday, which happened to be Memorial Day, with a Tuesday arrival into Emeryville, California, which is a Bayside community, and an Amtrak charter bus over the Oakland Bay Bridge into downtown San Francisco. So now I know the route and I know the date. The next thing to choose, of course, is my accommodations during this voyage. I have traveled on Amtrak by coach seat, by roomette, in what I call the full bedroom. That is the Amtrak bedroom, which includes a private bath. But I have never traveled in the family bedroom, which was one of the deciding factors for choosing it on this trip, along with several others that are actually a little more important. But for now, let's look at the three options I didn't choose and their plus and minuses, as it may impact your journey and what you prefer, and let's be honest, what we can or can't afford at that time. Let's start with coach seating for our journey. Now, I have never used coach seating on long distance travel. The most I've used it for was for around the 4-hour long trip from my hometown of Norman, Oklahoma to Fort Worth, Texas, which I have done several times. It has several big pluses. Cost naturally being number one. On the particular trip from Denver to San Francisco, a coach seat started as low as $175 for an adult and a child under 12. So that's two fares, one adult, one child, or $235 for 2 adults, as would have been the case in my example with my son and I, who was 13 at the time, but still, like in a lot of situations, considered an adult for pricing purposes. For that cost, you get the same views from really large windows. It's fairly easy as well to see out of both sides of the train, so you're not missing out on the good view side. The seat is comfortable with a great deal of legroom. In fact, more I'd say than a domestic business or first class airline flight, maybe even considerably more. Much like an airliner, the seats do lean back for sleeping a considerable amount, I'd say, and some of the newer seats at least do have a pop-up leg rest, giving them more of a recliner feel. These seats also have access to the observation car and to the cafe. They also, unfortunately, have some big minuses. Bathrooms. They can get a lot of extra use. They are naturally shared. There is no shower. They are often in poor condition. I hate to say that, but it has been my experience so far on long distance routes, not short distance routes, not the Heartland Flyer, but on long distance routes, the bathrooms typically are in poor condition, both structurally and hygienically. What can I say? They get a lot of use and they can get out of order really quickly. The next big drawback, of course, there's no privacy in a coach seat. There's no set seat assignments. You can't mark your seat and then leave them, though in many cases people do mark their seats. I think in theory you're not supposed to. They do, and typically they don't come back to find them, their stuff gone or move someplace else. But I think, there's no set seat assignment. You get what you get. Currently, you must pay for all of your meals, and there is no access to the dining car, only the cafe, which is basically a 7-Eleven on the rails. You're going to have a choice of microwave burgers, microwave hot dogs, bags of chips, sweet snacks, the typical, and much like a 7-Eleven, it's somewhat expensive. You can bring your own food, but there's no heating facilities of any kind, including boiling water, and there's not enough time en route to grab food at stops. In addition, due to the lack of privacy and the large number of people traveling coach, you're going to have a much more disturbed sleep pattern, typically during late night stops. There's going to be a lot more people coming and going through your car. You're going to notice those stops a lot more. If you're a light sleeper, yeah, that's probably going to pose something of a problem. Also, you can't make the entire coach car dark. If the light bothers you, yeah, you'll probably have the curtains by your seat pulled, but will the curtains directly behind you, in front of you, or across from you be pulled? Maybe, maybe not. That said, for a single overnight trip, I think that coach seating is a viable alternative. If you can bring a smaller cooler, say with sandwiches, and can manage with the sleeping issue, it's a great cost. You're going to see everything else that everybody else came on this journey to see, just at a much reduced rate. Now, I will give this caveat. Spending more than one night in a coach seat on a train seems like it could be more troublesome to manage than it might be worth. There are no bathing facilities for coach, save, I guess, the sink and the restroom. And the restrooms themselves, as I've stated, are not managed well. So, with that in mind, take it as you will to make your decision. Now, all the sleeper accommodations have certain things in common, certain big pluses and certain big minuses that go for all of the options in this category. The big pluses we'll go through first. First and foremost, is it any surprise? Privacy is a big plus in these accommodations. A room, though it may be small, does have a door and no one passing directly through it. There are much better shared bathroom facilities, much better. There are fewer people sharing them, so they tend to stay cleaner, and they usually have a better functioning condition. They appear to be in better structural condition. If you're in a full bedroom, you actually will have a full private bathroom as well. All the accommodations have lay flat sleeping arrangements, a true bed with sheets and blankets and a pillow. There is free bottled water all day and free coffee prepared fresh in the morning in each sleeper car. In addition, all of your meals are included in either the dining car or in your cabin that you choose from an actual menu. Now, this quick caveat. The Eastern Amtrak routes have the flexible menu versus the traditional menu. And while I have not had the opportunity to try the flexible menu, it appears to be little more than a TV dinner. And the reviews I've watched tend to vary on the quality of it. Personally, I'd plan on a TV dinner style meal on par with an airline's international offering, looking much as you see here and as good as any frozen entree from a store as a general rule. However, the traditional dining menu has always been good in my opinion. It is also a much more elegant presentation, and I do prefer the traditional menu. So compared to Coach, that's a pretty good deal, right? Okay, well, here come the minuses. Good deals, even though they're deals, costs. And the first big minus with sleeping accommodations is the cost. Now, let me just say cost is relative depending upon the comparison being made. There are ways of comparing the cost, say, in my example. The room for my son and myself was around $1,000 for the trip. My trip consisted, though, of a night's lodging, 5 meals for each of us, and transport from Denver to San Francisco. All told, I would say that easily equals about $950, and that's pretty conservative. It would probably actually cost me more for a night's lodging and 10 meals total and transport by airplane from Denver to San Francisco. So, not so bad from a standpoint when compared with a flight, but it is considerably more expensive than a coach seat on the same train. The second minus is that someone is most likely going to end up having to climb up to an upper bunk. While the full bedroom and the family bedrooms have a full, and imagine you can see the word full with quotes around it, size bed that 2 adults could share, you're going to need to be pretty thin and really like each other. I know, I have done it. You have to really like each other, like really, really like each other. You say you know, you say you're married. Yeah, you have to really, really like each other when it comes to sharing this bed, or one of you is going to climb that ladder up to the upper bunk. I will say a child, of course, is a little easier. I particularly like this picture from Amtrak of the toddler who has gotten out of his bed and moved into his dad's bed, as toddlers are known to do. But that's the case. That's a drawback. One of you is probably going to end up sleeping on an upper bunk. The third drawback, and this might actually be considered a little bit of a drawback in coach as well, electrical outlets are scarce. I mean, really scarce. I went over this in my review for the family bedroom. There was one, meaning literally one outlet in that room to plug one thing in. Take an extension cord. Now, in a case-by-case comparison, a roomette, its big plus is it's the best price of the 3 sleeping options, usually around $700-ish for the route that I'm talking about here, Denver to California, though I have seen it as low as $629-ish. That is for 2 adults. That's not per person. That's for 2 adults. So you're looking at around, say, $350 per adult for accommodation and meals and travel. The price is around $100 less for an adult traveling with a child 12 or under. Needless to say, but I will say it again, pricing varies wildly from route to route and time of year based on the current reservation levels of the class of transport being considered. For example, if a coach seat is nearly sold out, then the price could be around $500 to $600 for the few remaining seats, whereas that same coach seat was priced closer to $235 early on, again, for 2 people. The big drawback with a roomette, especially on a route like the Zephyr, is you only have a view out one side of the train from your room. There are roomettes lining each side of the train car with a hall down the middle. On the Zephyr, that means that one side of the train is looking into the cut, into the mountain or a rock wall, while the other view is out over a gorgeous valley. You can, of course, go to either the observation lounge and sometimes the dining car. If they're not actually setting up for a meal, they'll let you hang out in there to watch the view, maybe particularly on routes like the Zephyr, where the view is such a popular reason for traveling. On the full bedroom, the plus is there's a lot of space. There is a sofa in this room and a separate chair. The view is technically only out one side of the train, but since the room is set up with a hall running along the outside of the other side of the train, right, the outside of the train, you can look from inside your room through the windows in the hall at the view in that direction. There is a small amount of privacy loss in that case, but not much, and especially during the day when you're going to be watching the view. The super big plus with this type of accommodation, though, this is the only class of ticket, coach, or sleeper accommodation with a private bath. There's a pod with a shower toilet combo within it and a vanity sink out within the room itself. This is really nice, and especially at night, if you need to go to the restroom or if you just like the privacy of having your own, and Lord knows, let me just state, it is usually the bathroom facility in the best structural condition and in the most hygienic state of being. It gets cleaned and then you are the only one who uses it. If it's a mess, it's your fault and it's your mess. So at least you have the comfort of knowing that. Now, the big minus, of course, is the cost. It is usually the most expensive accommodation on the train. Now, that said, it's not always the most expensive. Sometimes I have seen rarely a family bedroom going for more than this bedroom, even though a family bedroom does not have its own bath. Again, you fall into the situation where if most of the family bedrooms are sold out, but this full bedroom still has mostly all of its availability, you could get a full bedroom cheaper than what's left of the family bedrooms. And speaking of the family bedrooms, technically they are the largest room on Amtrak. It's only a small amount. But technically they are the largest accommodation on Amtrak. This room, as its name implies, could be used for a family of 4. It has 4 beds, but this caveat, the family bedroom has space for just 2 adults and then 2 smaller kids. The kids' beds are about 5 feet long maximum. So my kid, my teenager, my son, he would not fit in one of those beds. You're talking someone probably 10 or under. That said, this room, if you are exceptionally tall, would be your best shot for a lay flat bed. In the end, you could use the bottom berth and allow your legs to stretch onto the child's berth at the end, giving you a full 9 feet in length for your bed. And that is something to consider for taller travelers. You might want to bring your own sheets. I don't know how long the sheets are. Probably not 9 feet long, but you do have that sort of stretch out room if you're an exceptionally tall traveler. As I touched on already, the bottom berth for the family bedroom is a full-size berth. So, could 2 of you sleep there with a 3rd adult in the top one? Yeah, kinda. Or could 2 adults sleep there and a taller child sleep in the top berth? Yeah, kinda. I'll leave that to you to decide, though. Like I said, it's tight, you guys. It's really, really tight. The super big plus with this room is that there is a window on each side of the room, meaning a private view in both directions. That's why I chose this room plus cost. Let me throw that in there, plus cost. We'll come to that in a second. But there is a window on each side of this room, meaning that you always have the best view. It doesn't matter which side it's on. I was thrilled and astounded with this bedroom on the California Zephyr route. It was gorgeous. It was wonderful. I highly recommend it. I can't speak for every route. It is on the lower level of the train. Some people who've never been on Amtrak, let me throw that in. Some people who've never been on Amtrak told me they didn't want to take a lower level room because they were afraid in areas where the train is below grade, you would need to be on the upper level in order to see the view. That is true. That is true. But that's not really a real common occurrence, at least out in the American West. Now, we have a middle ground minus here. It's kind of a minus. It's kind of a plus. Depends, again, on how you look at it. It's the cost. It's a plus because it's less, oftentimes substantially less. It was $900 less than a full bedroom for myself and my son on our route. That's a lot. $900 for a one night's journey is a lot to pay for just having a bathroom. So there is that. In that case, it's kind of a benefit compared to the full bedroom, but it is more than a roomette. It was about $300 more than a roomette. So a little bit of a minus. Again, for that $300, you are getting a lot of additional space and views out of both sides. So I think there's value there. Depends on how you look at it. Depends on how you compare it. Really big minus. The one big minus is literally the one outlet to plug one thing into. Did I touch on this already? I did touch on this already. Yeah, boy, it bears repeating though. This is the 21st century, guys. I basically have to plug myself in every night in order to function in the morning. And there's only one plug there. Now, as I said in my room review, and I said already on this review, take an extension cord. It's a really easy solution. A 6-foot extension cord only costs a couple of dollars. It'll reach all the way over to the sofa and you can plug 3 things in at once. My son and I ran both our phones off of it at the same time. I definitely suggest that, but it is technically a minus. So we're going to list it there as the one big minus of this room. And at the end of that, you can tell exactly why I chose the family bedroom for this particular voyage from Denver to San Francisco. The private bath of a full bedroom is very nice, and especially at night. But the view from this bedroom and especially the price was even better. So that's how I made that choice, which I considered paramount. Now, on to the rest of the choices that you're going to need to make if you're traveling. So, you know when you want to go on the train, so that makes picking a flight relatively easy, doesn't it?